Fable 3. Now, Peter, I know very little about Fable 3. All I'm aware of is that it's set 50 years after the events of Fable 2, and that you play the offspring of your character in Fable 2. What else?
Yeah. So here's the thing: is well, you come to Fable 3, and as a designer, really I want to kind of surprise people. Now, normally, computer games and films and books go like this. You start off as a character, there's some big baddie, you defeat the big baddie, end of game. But we sat down and we asked ourselves, maybe we could think about this being different. So you start off as a son from your Fable 2 game. You're kind of a prince, but your older brother is the king, and he's a really evil, tyrannical king. And you can go out there, get a force behind you, build up this rebellion force, take on the king, your brother, defeat him, and that takes you to about the halfway point in the game. Right. Because from that point, you then become king, and then you can run the kingdom. And you can run any kingdom you like. If you want to have, say, no, I'm really, my kingdom is never going to have, not a single person's going to starve. You can try and do that. It's going to be tough to do. You can also do it and say, I'm going to take all the money and I'm going to just use it for me and my palace and my things that I want. It's not a particularly nice thing to do, but you can do that. And that's pretty, I think that's a pretty interesting side to the story.
Now, knowing the Fable franchise to date, what it prides itself in is that it does have these various complex aspects, and what you're saying there sounds very similar, but that it manages to distill those and actually make them very simple for the player to understand and to actually enjoy. So running an entire kingdom doesn't become this over-complex case of micromanagement.
Yeah, that it's very interesting, and what's so fascinating about and it's an incredible thing which I realised, which was that over half the people who play Fable 2 use less than half the features of the game, and that sounded wrong. So it is all about simplicity and accessibility. There are some things that are missing. There's no health bar anymore, for example. We don't have experience anymore. There's another system called followers that are there, but I won't go into details. The morphing system, how you change and morph, is completely and utterly changed, from the ground up. It's not only you that morphs, it's anything that you use morphs. So I love the idea of crafting weapons, but why not have crafting weapons be based on what you do with a sword or a gun or with magic? And that means every weapon can be unique to you. All that stuff is really simple. The rule is what you do is what you become in the game. And that's true throughout the kingdom stuff as well. So when you become king, you have this new ability. It's called judgments. And you can pass judgments on things. No, I want it to be like this. And that's the main mechanic of how it runs.
Right, and from a combat perspective, obviously I assume you're trying to keep the single button combat aspect of it. One thing I've heard is that now the use of spells, you can now combine spells. Is that true?
Yes, so the combat system has been overhauled. We've still got the single button. It's been distilled even more. So we've got 3 buttons, one for swords, one for guns, and one for magic. Each one of those buttons, if you tap it, you get a very quick attack. If you hold it, you build up and infinitely build up a more powerful attack. And we don't cap that. So if you hold the button down for 2 hours, you're going to get thermonuclear explosion of an attack. Now that's true for guns, swords, and magic. The cool thing is now magic is based around objects. And I'll give you an example, is rings. If you wear a magic ring on your finger, the magic ring of fire, you cast fire-based spells. If you wear the magic ring of storms, and the magic ring of fireball, then it combines the storm spell and the fireball spell, and that's really, really cool.
I suppose the most memorable aspect of Fable 2 was the emotional connection that you developed with your dog. Does a dog make a return? Does a pet appear in this game?
Yeah, we've got the dog. The dog is back. What you can do with the dog and what you're able to discover with your dog is very, very different this time. We've got a new emotional mechanic. If the dog was a dog to do with emotion in Fable 2, then the real emotion is to do with touch. So we've got the trigger on the controller. If you pull it at any time, you can reach out in your hand and touch things. I'm only telling you one aspect of touch at the moment, which is when you actually go up to somebody and you initiate a touch. There's touch. If you know that person really well, you know, you may have a man hug, or, you know, if it's someone that you like, it may be a more tender embrace. If you're just meeting that person, you'll shake their hand. All of this also works with your co-op players as well.
You also mentioned the cooperative aspect there. Were you also looking to develop that? Obviously, there were certain aspects that I think people wanted more out of Fable 2's co-op. Are you really seeking to address those issues that people had?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing is that when you're designing something like Fable in the third, you'd be an idiot not to listen to people. And people very clearly said, they said, you know, about co-op, they said, hey, we want our heroes in people's co-op world. We want our two dogs to meet. We don't want to be tied to a camera there, and we listen to all that stuff.
Fantastic. Peter, always a pleasure. Thanks very much for your time.